Okay, we're back and we're ready for our final panel of the day, which is another really great one. I mean, we've had four, and each one is just as powerful as the one before it. So this is another really important one because a lot of you are talking about peer supports, what they do, how they get trained, where you get them, and we've got the best to tell you all about that. So Sue Polston and Matt McCoy from Sunrise are going to talk about Peer Support University, and then we'll be back for Q&A, okay? Thank you, Sue and Matt.
Thanks, Marilyn. Hey, everyone. And I agree. Today's event has been very, very empowering and very cool. And I appreciate everybody's initiatives. Recovery Friendly Workplace, Recovery High School, which was a passion of mine years ago when I first saw a movie, Generation Found, and I was like, North Carolina needs one. So I'm truly grateful for Mary for getting that going here. Anywho's, again, I'm Sue Polston. I am the executive director at Sunrise Community for Recovery and Wellness, which means I am a person with lived experience. We are a peer-run organization. So myself and all of our staff are certified peer support specialists, which means we have lived experience with substance use, mental health, or both. And we have overcome, managed, and are thriving in our wellness journeys. And we were able to give back and provide hope to others. So that in a nutshell is peer support. How to become a peer support in North Carolina, you have to take a 40-hour approved peer support training. VIA is generally in this side of, in the West. We also have Kevin Mahoney, who is a peer support god, if you would. He does some trainings, and then there's multiple ones, right? So basically you got to take that 40-hour training. You have to then get 20 additional hours. So as Marilyn was saying, you can use, or you can contact PRISM for contact hours, CEUs for this, something like this, or RAP, or Recovery Coach Academy, or our Peer University program, which we'll get to in a second. Matt will tell you all about that. So you take your 40-hour training, you have 20 additional hours, and you submit that with 2 references, personal references, professional references, to UNC Chapel Hill School of Social Work, which they oversee. There's not really a board or anything like that, but they oversee the certifications through North Carolina. Once you get your certification, then every 2 years you have to recertify, and that involves completing another 20 hours of continuing education, 2 more references, and application to UNC Chapel Hill again. And so, yeah, that's pretty much like in a nutshell how to become a peer support specialist. Our Peer University program, which Matt will talk about, he's our Peer University coordinator, so he does the day-to-days on it all, but I'll give you a little backdrop of how this all came about. I'm pretty sure we might be still the only one in the state doing this in particular. Sunrise is 6 years old as far as doors opening and becoming a thing. Our current board chair, about 6 years ago, when I began at Sunrise as well, had this vision of Peer University. It, in his mind, was a 3-tiered system that started off with your basically volunteering and education, to your second tier, which is your continuing education, and your third tier, which is peer support. So as peers, we need support. So, you know, in the clinical world, you're required to have supervision and that kind of stuff. In the peer world, there really isn't, like I said, there's no really board or anything that governs peer support in North Carolina. So we kind of just created our own, as far as we have peer support every couple of weeks. But anyways, so this 3-tier system was a thought 6 years ago, and then we've slowly been implementing it to where it's like now this fully functioning program. And so I'll let Matt take it from here about how Peer University is looks like on a day-to-day, and maybe some stories, success stories.
Thank you, Sue. My name is Matt McCoy, and I'm a peer support specialist at Sunrise, and I'm also, like Sue said, the coordinator for Peer University. And I'm a person in recovery from substance use and mental health. And so lots of lived experience with those things. And I started Peer University about this time last year as a student or a participant, and then did an internship, which I'll talk about in a second. And here I am, and it's an awesome opportunity. It's incredibly rewarding. And so just a little bit about Peer University. It's an 8-week no-cost program, and it's open to anyone who identifies as being in recovery from substance use or mental health. We offer up to 20 credit or contact hours, and those can be applied towards that 40 hours that Sue was talking about, the peer support certification. So we try and marry those two. Well, you can marry them together with Peer University, and we partnered with VIA, and we're actually in the same building doing our trainings. And so about halfway through Peer University, the participants can jump into that VIA training and maintain that momentum. And once they finish Peer University, after about 5 or 6 weeks, they bundle it all up and send it off to North Carolina, to the state, and get their certification. So it's a great program. We have we're on number 5 for the year right now, and our 5th session, which will end at the end of the year, just before Christmas. And we average about 10 to 12 folks per training or per session. And our trainings range anywhere from harm reduction and Narcan training. We do recovery messaging, which is a really great one. We do racial equity, LGBTQ+, and peer support. We do some field trips. We go and do outreach at our local outreach places, Haywood Community Church and A-Hope here in Asheville. So it's just a really cool opportunity for folks to come in. And, you know, we were talking about in our first session that Sunrise was doing about the reentry programs and linkage to care. And there have been a few folks that have come out of that and have come into Peer University. You know, there's this, as peer supporters, we're pretty excited about wanting to give back and get out in the community and help. And what Peer University does is it gives you some guidance on how to channel that help, or that desire to help people. And we let people explore the different avenues, because Sunrise has so many different programs and opportunities for people to get in and get some hands-on experience, whether it's our respite or linkage to care or SSP or safe syringe program. They can have opportunities to volunteer there. And on towards the end of our class, our session, at graduation, actually, we'll offer up to 3 internships, and those are paid spots for people to do 4 to 6 weeks of interning and really get some good experience, just shadowing Sunrise staff and just, figuring out what they really like or what they really don't like. It's all about finding a good fit. And for our participants, we want them to find what they like. And, we know if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to continue to do it and do it good. It took me a few times to figure out what I wasn't good at. And then I'm kind of settled into something I feel like I'm doing all right at. And another class we talk about is boundaries and ethics and self-care. We really, really drive that in, or drive it home, because it's so important as peer support that we know how to set boundaries and we know the ethics behind it. And how important it is just to take care of ourselves, because if we can't take care of ourselves, or if we don't, we can't take care of or help other people. So Ollie, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Sue, I don't know, throw some other stuff out there if you got it.
The question in the chat was, how do we recruit people? So this has been an ongoing thing. Matt just has really come into this position and knocked it out the park and got it really just structured. But this is something that I've been working on for the last 6 years or so. So at this point, it's a lot of folks. So we do events like this and talk about it with other peers. We talk about at the VIA peer support trainings, they always have outside organizations come in and talk about it. A good chunk of our people come from those trainings, and then now from word of mouth. So we've had tons of people at this point take and finish peer university, and they're telling other folks, they're telling people that are in their you know, their 12-step programs or their halfway houses or their recovery support systems. And so it's really just it's blowing up, right? I think we have to set a cap at what, about 10 to 12 participants, like you said, otherwise it's just too much. And sometimes that makes us put on a waiting list for the next session. So that's pretty cool. How young can someone go through the program, and what is job placement like after successful completion? Great question. We've just recently opened it up to 17 and up. We actually are working with another organization, Family Preservation Services, and one of their healthy transitions youth programs. And so they're actually paying for internships for their youth. So that could be anywhere from 17 to 26. Prior to that, it was 18 and up. All of Sunrise's services are 18 and up. And then job placement. So here's an example. Matt went from being in the class, taking the class, to being a paid intern, to being a paid employee, and then now running the program. That's not always the case, right? We obviously can't employ 12 people every other month. Personally with Sunrise, however, we're well known in our area and surrounding areas that when somebody has peer university graduate or whatever on their resume, it shows as actual experience. So a lot of your other agencies, community health, mental health agencies, are requiring a year experience. Well, how can I have a year experience if nobody will give me a job? And so by doing this peer university, that's really like putting a stamp of approval on, like, hey, I do have hands-on experience. I've been through Sunrise's peer university. And so it's a good thing for other employers to see that. I'm not sure like what our job placement looks like as far as how many people do get employed, but I will say over the last few years, we have over a handful at least still actively employed that came through peer university. There aren't any other peer universities to my knowledge in the state, and how cool would that be if we could do little sub portions of this or provide the technical assistance. So I know I've been working with Devin at Wilkes Recovery Revolution around this, and that's something that they want to implement into their, start a peer university program at Wilkes. And so that's the idea, right? Let's get our recovery community centers on board, and they can not recreate the wheel, take our technical assistance and our forms or whatever they need to get their program started too. If a county wanted to set up a peer support program, how would they start? How much should they budget? Peer support program is pretty broad, so I don't know exactly. Like I said earlier, for Sunrise to open its doors, it took $50,000. Very quickly, they secured other funding. I wasn't around in the first 6 months, so I don't know too much exactly. However, the average salary of a peer support specialist, it depends where if you work for a peer-run organization, it's going to be you're going to be paid more appropriately as a peer professional, as opposed to other community health agencies that aren't able to pay as much because they bill Medicaid, and then it's It's not cost effective for them as a business. So here at Sunrise, our minimum pay, we just did another increase to try to keep up with inflation. And we now start at $21 an hour. Again, we're not a big corporation. We don't have a whole bunch of fancy benefits. Like, we don't have major medical insurance and stuff like that. So we do like to compensate a little bit extra for that. But we do have primary care membership. We have dental insurance. We have a pretty good PTO package, and which now includes 4 wellness days a year. So we are implementing that you can take a mental health day at no cost to your PTO, and for no reason other than, hey, I need a wellness day. So we have 4 of those. We have 11 paid holidays and things like that. Regionally, as far as the average salary of a peer support specialist, it's gone way up since when I first started. I first started at $10 an hour. And from what I see and hear, I want to say an average is anywhere from 15 to 18. There might be some that's still paying 15, more towards the 18. And then, like I said, we start at 21, but our leadership positions and stuff are higher than that. I'm trying to keep up with the questions. Are some counties or task force or health departments that seem to be doing a good job with peer support programs? Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. Like I said, even over the last 5 years, I've seen recovery support services, I've seen peer support really just like blow up in a good way. So again, lots of work to still be done, but we've come so far. And again, in a county like Buncombe, as opposed to a county like Polk, let's say, that's going to look way different. So yeah, for the most part, a lot of our health department, actually our Buncombe County Health Department helps support us, and we contract with them to provide the syringe services program, our linkage to care program, and stuff like that. So there are some good work being done out there, and lots of work to still be done. Yes, peer supports and therapists can work together, and it is highly advised, in my opinion. We all, I think Marilyn said it a couple of times, we cannot do this alone. That means every one of us, no matter what scope of work we have, and we all really need to come together. And that means my first job at a community mental health agency, I was part of a PSR team, psychosocial rehabilitation, and every single one of us had an important role. And it didn't matter if it was the doctor, the therapist, the QP, or the peer. Like we were equally needed and equally a part of the success of our peers. So many times I've heard, that a therapist just can't get any engagement with somebody. And then when a peer is introduced, all of a sudden that participant, that client, if you would, for the therapist, is now ready or willing to at least engage in therapy. So there is a very good value for everyone to work together. Like I said, I don't care if it's from the doctor to the peer support, is all equally as important on the team. How do you suggest organizations, businesses, health departments that don't have peer support specialists get on board to get that started? I think everybody needs to get on board and get that started. Like, I don't know, like, to give specific suggestions exactly. It goes back into advocacy, education, and community buy-in, right? So way back in the beginnings of Sunrise, when our founder and prior executive director was working with the ADA to create a peer-run felony diversion program. That took a lot of work, right? That took a lot of meetings with Sunrise and the ADA, and luckily he was easy to get buy-in from, but that's not always the case in all areas. Stigma, we have to tackle stigma. We have to continue to tackle it because it's just continue to kill people. and not allowing things. So we've gotten lots of backlash around our syringe services program through community members, and to me, making up things like all this needle litter and is all because of your SSP. No, it was there before, but it's probably less now because we're actually anyways. So there are hoops to jump, and just I don't have any real specific suggestions, but Ariana, our peer support specialist, part of recommendations for recovery NC.
I just saw that, and absolutely, but with the caveat that we engage people like Sue and my executive director, Devin Lyle, in the conversation, because we certainly don't want to overutilize an already stretched thin population. We want to make sure also that they're compensated for their specialties and their skills and their experience, obviously brought to the table for discussions, but for instance, if somebody is already working in a workplace and they want to become a certified peer support specialist to better serve their coworkers, right? That's their choice. They should definitely be compensated for that extra work and then trained additionally. But if we just throw a peer support specialist in a human resources department, what's the upward mobility of their career, of their salary? And are we just burdening them with all of the mental health or substance use needs? So I think it could be done really carefully, but I think we need to engage peer supports in the question of what do you want the upward mobility of your career path to look like, and what industries do you see yourself engaging in? And I think we need to engage, like I said, people like Sue and Devin who manage these programs that utilize peer support specialists effectively. And a lot of times, whether or not we're brought to the table, we are engaging in the work in different industries, like she mentioned, with, harm reduction is an excellent point. Needles around the community are a collective problem. Needle stick injuries are a collective problem, and syringe access programs statistically reduce the occurrences of needle stick injuries in a community. And peer support specialists are running those programs. People with lived experience are running those programs. So I think it's important to recognize where peer supports are already stretching themselves, thin and picking up the work in these other industries, engaging the people who organize and fund them, and then asking them where they want to see themselves going. So before we engage them in recovery friendly NC, that's, I say that, and I have a team of excellent peer support specialists here who are the life's blood of my county's initiative. So there's a lot of work to be done, and yes, they have an important role.
Thanks. Next question says, can people outside of our county join the university? Is there a virtual education option available? Right now, no. I have big visions and big dreams, and it requires more funding. Surprise, right? Isn't that always the case? I've shared with Matt, and maybe Matt can talk about some of his visions because he's got likewise ones too. But what are maybe some of your future sites of how we can make this statewide?
So this year's just kind of been a build up for we've been transitioning out of one space into another, and we've sort of landed in a nice spot for in person. When we started this time last year, we were hybrid or virtual, all virtual, and so we transitioned to in person, and now there's this demand, or how can we do this on a hybrid version? I think we can do it sometime maybe mid next year. And we'd also like to do some weekend classes so we can, right now we're Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which really puts a burden on folks trying to get off work or adjust schedule around that. So if we can do some weekend stuff, maybe a couple of evenings. So just check back in with me or the website, and I can post some information there. And I just wanted to go back to the job piece real quick, that we are seeing people that are coming out of Peer University get jobs. And we're also trying to work on building up a couple of job fairs for peer-specific job fairs next year. So probably in the spring and the fall. And just, my vision is just as soon as they're done with Peer University and get their certificate, then they're hired. They're good to go, just to keep that momentum going. So those are some big dreams, but you got to dream big, right?
Got a dream, period.
That's right.
Small dreams and big ones. We need them all. Well, let me ask you something, Matt. So if you could hire more now, how many how many do you need peer supports?
Well, I don't do any hiring, thank goodness.
Well, like if you could.
No, that's a good question. There are a number of places in our immediate community here in Buncombe. They're looking for peer supports, and I can relay a couple of those. But the peers in Peer University are the future peers. They're finding out. They're going online, going to Indeed and places like that, and they're because they have all the credentials, they have that certificate, they are first in line to get the job, because there's a big demand for peers in this area anyway. That's what we're seeing. But so they're not having a lot of problems. But the vision is to not just have them just to have one job to choose, but multiples. What do I want to do? What as a peer support, this is what I like, so I'll just take this job. So I can't hire anybody.
No, I know you can't, but I know you need more. And if I said something to Sue right now, I'm sure she would say, there's a lot of agencies that need to hire.
Right.
They're so important. So I would say that, we're very interested in helping you expand this notion of peer support university, and helping these other counties that are represented today and other ones, because maybe some only need one, but that's just the beginning. They're going to be growing and needing more.
Yeah, so definitely.
So any final questions from anyone here in our building now about peer support? Anybody?
It says, can you go over a bit more of what classes and programs are included in Peer University? So I know, Matt, you mentioned harm reduction, racial equity. What else? What are some of the modules that?
Active listening, which is we partner with a local agency called Seek Healing here, and let's see, LGBTQ plus in peer support, recovery messaging, ethics and boundaries, navigating the application process for certification. That's challenging if you're doing it by yourself or if you've never done it before. There's a lot of little pieces you've got to do, and so we do that. I know I'm leaving things out, but you can find all of these on our website.
And I did put that link in the chat as well. It'll take you straight to our Peer University tab of our website. And then if you scroll all the way down on that page, you can actually just put your information in. That information goes to Matt, and then you get put on the list for the Peer University program. So